Cool.
We're not late. I was updating my phone and texting somebody. Which I need to. I'm checking the. Come on, fucking bring up the conversation. Okay, I can't. Let me put it on fucking do not disturb, because otherwise I'll keep fucking messaging her.
Yeah, don't you had to do that.
Well, she's watching the Ted Bundy tapes on Netflix.
Okay.
And even though I'm going to talk about the show, I just watched the. I need to actually pull up the name of it.
Mm-hmm.
The
Right. Remember, we need to keep our what we've been watching and all that to a minimum because, like, pick one thing or like.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's like the two things I want to talk about. The Ted Bundy thing, which I need to pull up the name because it's called Wicked something.
Right.
And the other one I need to look up the name of, which is the WWE movie.
Okay.
I can't really remember either one, so I need to look those up before we start.
Okay.
Those are like the two things.
You
I
could
wanted to
do it
talk
while
about.
I'm talking because I'm gonna have a lot to talk about before we even get to you discussing what you've done for the week. I've got basically we
I'm
start
doing our test recording.
Yeah,
right
we
now.
start the show. We go to into the prelude before we even get to the part where we start talking about our stuff.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start going through the tweets and replies that we got from the week.
Okay, cool.
And then that'll give you time if you want to do while I'm
Yeah.
doing that. So what I want to do is I'll probably read one of the tweets. If we have anything to say about said tweet, we can go ahead and reply to it then. I've got 1, 2, 3 tweets that I thought we could at least talk a little bit about. We don't.
Bring the subject.
Yeah,
on.
we don't have to spend too much time on them. It's just going to be kind of
like a last week recap kind of thing.
right, and it's only because like so many people messaged us after the episode.
Yeah.
So I kind of picked out. We've got the person that the Minecraft one, the Diablo, and the former StarCraft one.
Yeah, I mean,
That
there is the most important one, which is.
I
Deitch.
made a note that he did comment, but his tweet really wasn't
No,
discussion worthy.
for me, it was very important.
Yes. So
In
yeah.
fact, I'm gonna be like, show's over. I'm done. I really peaked. We peaked. We're
You-
done. I
You
got.
peaked because Bungie acknowledged your existence.
Senpai noticed me. Okay. Oh, all right.
Hi everybody, we're about to get started.
Yeah, all right. That was probably the audio looks like it's fine. I'll listen to it for a second. Though.
Yeah. Got some scotch.
Now that we're explaining to the people that what we're about to do, and then we're gonna do the thing we're about to do.
It's called doing a live show.
See, I figured it was much like every reality TV show. It's 5 minutes of what you're about to see, a minute and a half of what you see, and then
Right.
5 minutes discussing what you just saw.
Probably, yeah.
So you only show
just-
the only exists for about a minute and a half. Let me give this.
Sure.
We're a little quiet.
Okay. I feel that we'll get louder as
Yeah, I mean you're right. I don't know if you can see it. You're
yeah,
right there.
it does look a little bit quiet, yeah.
Yeah, and this is me.
I know that
that's even quiet. For
I
me.
know that Willow was playing with knobs earlier, so that's a thing.
I mean, I'll always put the headphones in. I'll probably just do
Yeah. Bump us up a
that,
little bit.
and that will probably be enough.
Great. All right, so yeah, we'll be talking about games as a service today as our main topic. It was a weird fucking
See, I thought
news.
this was one we would have been putting off longer, like closer to E3 or
I
something.
thought so too, but this is just a really hot issue right now. This is something that's really entire video YouTube channels are being dedicated to talking about this. And when we come into this, we need to go in with the approach because everybody's writing a lot of negative things that have negative connotations. I want us to evaluate games as a service as a whole and talk about both the pros and cons. That's how I've laid the questions out. We need to evaluate all sides of it, and we're not going to just discuss one type of games as a service. We're going to discuss multiple ones, so let's just keep that in mind when we're talking
What's
about
up,
it.
Fat Tack Banana?
Fat Tack Banana.
Yeah,
Yo, what's
'cause
up,
if
everybody?
You look, if you space it, the words are all there. It does say Fat Tack Banana.
All right, well, we should just jump in and do this because we got a lot to talk about here. So,
Beware, oh fat tack banana. It's actually what it says.
yes.
I don't know what's the user once he came in with that username was like awesome. I love it because it says something different to me. All right, yeah. When audio seems to be good, we'll get louder as the.
Yeah, let us know if we're too quiet or if we need to speak up. I mean, we need y'all's help with that.
I need to finish this drink so I can drink my. I specifically got that drink for this show because of what it is. It's called is it Keyboard Warrior, and the description of it is about trolling people on the internet and how you're a horrible piece of shit because you troll people on the internet. Like It's just like, oh god, I have to try this beer.
Yeah. All right, let's do it.
All right. More loudness.
More loudness, please. Okay.
See, it says like in the mixer
says we're
that
being pretty loud.
We're being pretty loud. We're peaking.
We peaked a long time ago, Tony.
My 20s. It's been a crash down since then. Remember the Great Depression in the 40s? Mine started in the 30s. Was the Great Depression in the 30s? Now, when the fuck was the Great Depression?
It was the 30s.
Was it 30s?
Yeah,
30s into the 40s?
maybe.
Yeah, it was the Roaring 20s, and the Great Depression was the
Yeah.
30s. And then it took World War II to get us out, and
Yeah.
that was the beginning of the 40s. Yeah.
We are not a history podcast, by the way. Just welcome to it.
No, I can't remember things sometimes and don't. Yeah. Seriously, it does work. You had the Roaring 20s, then the Great Depression happened in the 30s, and then the 40s. I'll probably go to war or some shit.
Yeah, probably.
Because that's the way the country's going.
Everyone keeps tossing around the term games as a service. But what is it really? And how could it impact the future of gaming going forward? Adventurers, gear up for an all-new episode. Greetings, adventurers, and welcome to the show. We are the Surly Nerd, your one-stop shop for geek news that might have flown under your radar over the last week. I'm your host, James, and sitting across from me is the producer of this fine show, Tony.
Hi.
Great introduction this week.
I'm looking up something for a little bit later in the show, so I forgot that we were getting to this part this soon.
Yes. And out this week is Hector. He is actually sick, not like Hector sick. I'm using air quotes here. Yeah, he came into work today. He was a little under the weather, so he's not going to be with us this week. But if you're new to our show, welcome. This week's Boss Room, we're going to be breaking down the world of games as a service. But before that, we have the Weekly Raid, which is a recap of all the nerd news that's fit to rant about for your ears. Don't forget that you can keep connected with us through thesurlynerd.com. You can follow us on all social media platforms and even donate to the show. Every penny donated goes right back into the show that we make for you every week. Now that we've gotten through all of the intros, ladies and gentlemen, adventurers of all ages, it's time for the prelude.
Yeah, it's gotten a little bit faster. You reach like the perfect speed.
I need to
I think for the intro.
Just dial it back just like
No, I think you reached the perfect with the quickness, because this is a section that every podcast people listen to, they just want to get this part over with.
Right.
It's all of the break stuff. Like you're just like, fuck you, just get to the fucking point already.
That's one of the reasons I kind of go a little bit faster with it.
Yeah, and I mean that was less than a minute, and
Yeah.
so you're like, cool, done,
Yeah.
out of the way. Now we can go on with the rest of the stuff, because I always every YouTube video you watch, you're like the last minute and a half, you're like, thanks to our sponsors, and I'm not watching anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah. Prelude.
All right, adventures, it's the prelude. This is what we've been doing with ourselves this week, what we've been watching, what we've been playing, what has been occupying our free time. Now, before we get started, normally we would just jump right into what we've been reading and what we've been playing. I'd like to kick off the prelude this week with something a little bit different. So last week on the show, we had this really awesome boss room where we got to talk about the role of community managers in the games industry. And over the course of the week, we actually had some community managers reach out to us via Twitter, and some of the responses that we just got they were freaking amazing. I have no other way to put this. I don't have time to go over every exchange that we got that I had this week, but I did pick a few great ones to kind of go over again. And to all of those community managers who reached out to us over the course of the week, thank you very much. Seriously, all of you guys just chimed in and really kind of backed up what we were already talking about. A lot of them seem very thankful that we talked about the role of community managers when it comes to the video game industry. The first tweet that I have here is actually from her name's Helen. She is the community manager for Minecraft, and that is at Helen Angel is her Twitter name. And she goes on to say that you go into community management because you genuinely care and want to help people. Many of us have done this for years before company realized this, and it is a legit job, and that we should be paid for our expertise. So she's kind of reflecting this idea that, for a long time, community managers weren't always treated like they were important employees.
It really is a job that came out the offshoot of forum managers, or Reddit managers, people that were just a fan of a product that would oversee the conversation for other people. And that became their job, and they should get paid accordingly because they are doing something for this company. And I just, basically pay people what they're actually worth.
Exactly. And then we also had Brandy, who's the community manager for Diablo, a game that we definitely play a lot of.
Yeah.
And
just a little bit.
Brandy, who's at Dainty, said that being a community manager can be a struggle sometimes. There's a lot of negativity, and that negativity, even if misdirected, will wear you down. She says, anytime I see people genuinely enjoying the game, being Diablo, live streams, BlizzCon, random IRL encounters, etc., it makes it all worth it. It makes me wish that more people would share their smiles alongside their frustrations. I think the part that hurts the most is that we are equally as passionate. I do think that it's a matter of the golden rule that the internet needs to be a little bit better at practicing. But here's the thing. Odds are, if you're frustrated or angry about a change within the games that we are the community managers for, we probably are too.
Yeah, I completely agree. The community manager is the voice of the company to the people, or better or worse, right? And being able to voice your own opinion is something you're not really allowed to do anymore once you have that job. Yeah. So whenever you get frustrated with a bad patch or something stupid that happened, and all you can do is go, cool, I'll take your feedback and give it to the right team. When you want to scream and say, no, I completely agree with you, this should be changed, but you can't. You have to stay professional.
Right. Exactly.
And great response.
Our last comment that we're going to kind of deep dive into is from Andrew Dunn. He's at Drew Dunn on Twitter. And he's a former StarCraft community manager. So for years, he was the community manager for StarCraft, which, apparently the Blizzard people love us. Just throwing that out there. Yeah. Andrew says, being a community manager, it can be one of the best jobs. He said that I loved working with awesome influencers like we have in StarCraft. As for the wider community, it can be tough, but it's gotten so much better over the last 5 years. Dev teams respect community input and community managers much more now.
No. 10 years ago, this wasn't. We wouldn't be having this conversation about it. It was a thankless job that generally people did for free.
Yeah.
And now it's the gaming industry has moved forward. Baby steps. We're getting there. Maybe unionize. Maybe do that one.
So thank you to all those community managers that reached out to us this week. I'm glad that you listened to the episode. We loved having your input. It was so cool to interact with so many cool community managers throughout the gaming industry. I'm going to let Tony stroke his own ego here for a second. What happened that made your week?
Deej, the community manager for Bungie, tweeted back at us, specifically calling me out for being the wonderful person that I am and knowing things about Destiny and Bungie and him in particular.
Yeah, so it was quite the ego stroke for you.
I'm still so damn giddy.
So you've definitely peaked at this point. You've been acknowledged.
Yep.
By Bungie. All right, so now let's get into the prelude. We're going to keep this really brief because we did want to talk about the community manager stuff. Tony, what have you been playing, watching?
There was a couple of movies I wanted to bring up because these were fun things that I watched. The first one is a new Netflix movie that came out, I think, yesterday.
Okay.
Or this weekend. I'm not sure. I don't know. Game of Thrones happened. Called Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile. Mm-hmm. It's the story of Ted Bundy told through the eyes of the women around him and how they didn't really believe that he was this killer and how the women loved him. Right. And Ted Bundy's played by Zac Efron, and he always trusts Zac Efron, right? Like he's like,
not after this movie, I don't.
No, I super don't trust him now. He's a serial killer and has murdered lots of people. It was a really well done movie, and just by the end of it, you're watching it going like, no, this motherfucker killed a lot of people, right. And just watching these women, you're like completely just refusing to acknowledge what's in front of them, and then how other women joined up with that, and they're like, no, he's handsome, he's obviously not guilty, and you're like, that's not how guilty works.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good.
Is that why people think you're always guilty of everything, Tony?
Are you calling me unhandsome? Which is a word I just invented.
Very well done. Very well done. What's the other thing that you watched?
The other one, I have to pull it up here because I keep calling it Family Fight, but it's not. It's called Fighting with My Family.
Okay.
It's a WWE movie.
Okay.
Specifically, it's about this family from Norwich, England. and how they were a wrestling family. They had their own wrestling thing in the local area,
Like a
And-
gym?
yeah, or they put on shows like WWE style shows for
Okay.
people in the area, and their dream, everybody who does that, their dream is to work for WWE, right?
Obviously.
Well, they get a chance, and specifically the daughter, Paige, gets to go on and become part of the WWE universe. I mean, that's the end of the movie. Sorry
Right.
to spoil the whole fucking thing, but you would know that if you watch WWE because actually it's based on a real life story. It is the story of the girl Paige, well, that's her stage name,
Right.
and her family, and how she changed wrestling, specifically women's wrestling in WWE with her coming in, because she came in from
Which has definitely
I
become-
fight with guys background.
Right, which has become much more well respected than it was.
Yeah, no.
previously.
Before that's one of the kind of the jokes they make in the movie. How she makes fun of all the women. She's like, oh, they're either models or models. I don't know, can't remember what she says, but basically, yeah, it's the models. We're always like, ugh, gross. It's the girls that fight each other.
Yeah.
They're just there to look pretty, and she makes that comment, and all the girls are like, yeah, that's what we used to do. But she helped train the next ones to be like, okay, you can learn how to fight correctly.
That's
You
cool.
can learn how to wrestle and do all the things the guys can do.
As somebody who watched wrestling in my younger, more formative years with my grandfather, it was a thing that we loved growing up together. I think it'd be a very fascinating movie, to be honest, just to see the history of all of that, kind of come together, especially considering where women's wrestling in the WWE is now. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, no, she really is the one that started the whole women's revolution in wrestling in the past 10 years. And the movie's just fun also. It's just a really good movie.
Just very, very well written. And
yeah, it's just
everything.
very well written, very fun. The Rock is hilarious in the little bit that he's in it.
Oh, that's awesome. Let's see, over on my side, I don't want to keep us too long because we do have a lot of news to talk about this week. A comic recommendation, if you're looking for something fun that's not serious whatsoever. We did talk about this in the news of a couple months back. The first issue of Deceased came out.
Oh yeah, the one with the stupid name.
Yes, this
I'm
is
sorry,
the...
the premise sounds so cool. The name is so.
I mean, it is basically just DC Comics doing their version of Marvel Zombies.
Yeah.
But I love, and I need to just talk about the horrible metaphor that they use to kick this off. So, of course, every good zombie story has to have a how does the virus, attack the world, premise, right? Like, is it something like The Stand where somebody doesn't close the gate at the CDC, or is it, like Walking Dead where we
Spoiler for The Stand,
It
by
could
the
just
way.
happen. It's like the first 5 minutes of The Stand, dude. So in Deceased, what they do is Darkseid kidnaps, and I'm sorry, I'm going to spoil this. It's Darkseid kidnaps Cyborg, implants a techno-organic virus into him, and then puts him back on Earth. Then when Cyborg reconnects to the networks of Earth, he basically tweets, and anybody who interacts with the tweet becomes a zombie. So we have this social media metaphor going on with it.
Yeah.
And then people just turn into zombies. So now we have Batman as a zombie, and now Superman's got to try and fight him. That's the premise of it. It's a very silly premise.
very silly premise.
But you know what? It was fun. I was reading this over lunch today, and I'm like, you know what? This is not the most well written comic book I've ever read, but I'm enjoying the hell out of myself while I'm doing it. And it's
the
interesting
cover
because
of it looks fucking great. Though.
because zombies themselves are kind of just such a worn out premise, but they're slowly creeping back in, only with really good stories.
Because they're zombies, they have to slowly creep back.
They do
in.
slowly. Well, they don't always. 28 days later, man, they run sometimes.
Those aren't zombies. That's a separate thing. That's a separate genre.
All right, so that was my comic book recommendation for the week. Pick it up, Deceased. It's out right now. Really cool variant covers and stuff going on with it. That's everything that we have for the prelude this week. We're going to take a small break. When we come back, we'll be going into our big news segment called The Weekly Raid.
They're not zombies. I'm sorry.
Fight me on this one. They're zombies.
They're not zombies.
I'm coming down on the argument they are zombies.
They're rage monsters. They're
You
not
believe that
zombies.
only Romero zombies are zombies, and it just
Well, any fast-moving zombies aren't zombies. They're rage monsters. Rage monsters aren't zombies. Zombies, slow-moving, shambling, rotting corpses. Rage zombies, fast-running, not really rotting, fucking red-eyed clawing machines. They're two different fucking things, people.
All right, let's do this. This is going to be a weird news roundup, guys. So we apologize in advance for how weird.
Jenny
this
says,
could
"Chill
get.
the fuck out." All right, let me mute that truck. I don't know why I still do that. It doesn't fucking. I don't have that set up to do a thing anymore. I don't know why I always mute the track, but later on it reminds me what I have and haven't done. So Useless shit in editing that I still
You
do.
overcomplicate.
Yeah. I simplified the fuck out of it the last time I went through all of this, though.
Yeah.
The Weekly Raid.
Hey, adventurers, welcome back to the show. This is the Weekly Raid. It is our news roundup for the week. And I just want to preface before we even get started on this. Last week, the news was kind of chill. It was relaxing. It was all pretty fucking normal.
We were having a fun,
We had a
relaxing
fun
time.
It was a good time for
We had
everybody.
a great show.
Not this
Paige
week.
tweeted me. It was fucking awesome.
All of the news this week is just fucking weird. Like top to bottom, all the news that came out I was just like, what? Like, did everybody just take like weird pills over the week and just everything? Okay, I'm just gonna jump into it.
Yeah, just give me
So
something.
you like the Fast and the Furious movies, right?
I generally do love the Fast and the Furious movies.
Yeah. So Fate of the Furious is a Fast and the Furious movie.
That is correct.
Yeah. So you obviously have love for that franchise.
Yep.
Probably like that director, all right?
Yeah.
All right. So it turns out that the director of Fate of the Furious is actually going to be making a Saints Row movie.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, Fast and Furious is already fucking crazy and weird and just ridiculous.
So you can already see him doing
I can
this.
see this happening. I'm like, all right. Now I'm just like, who the fuck are we casting for all of this? This is gonna be great.
Yeah, so the director is going to be Gary Gray, and he's the director. He also directed Straight Outta Compton, Fate of the Furious, and also directed Men in Black International. It's about to come out.
Oh god, the trailer just came out for that, or the second trailer, I guess, and I am stupidly looking forward to Men in Black International.
So chat's bringing out a good point. Like, which Saints Row are they going to base this on? Because Saints Row 1 was very...
Yeah, it was an actual logical story.
It was more GTA.
Yeah, because
right?
it was GTA's knockoff.
Right.
And then they played a little bit with it. They had a little bit of fun.
Yeah.
And
So Saints
they
Row,
just latched onto that.
I think
for the
Saints
rest
Row
of
has just
Saints
gotten
Row.
exponentially like fucking weirder and more out there.
Yeah.
So I think that's what they really want to tap.
I think that
with the
maybe they're going to
movie.
do the same thing the way the video games work with the movies, because like Fast and Furious,
You were
didn't
putting
start
way too
crazy.
much-
Fast and Furious started relatively normal, like street gang racing shit, and then went into this crazy international like.
No, if
thieving
I don't
shit.
see a minimum 15 dildo swords,
I
while
think
in
that
this-
maybe in Saints Row 3 you'll get the dildo cannon and everything else. I think that we're gonna start off relatively normal and then ease our way into Crazyville, much like the Fast and the Furious franchise has.
I don't think that it can. I think that I think that it would behoove them to really just embrace the ridiculousness of Saints Row, going out the gate and just being like, let's just make it absolutely crazy, but also play it like as serious as possible, much
Yeah.
like the Fast and the Furious movies.
No,
I think-
that's one of the reasons why I love the Fast and the Furious movies. Everybody in them, that is actually happening to them. That's how great they are as actors. Whenever everything's going crazy, like, no, fuck you. This is what happens. Obviously, you jump through buildings in Dubai, like in Dubai, all the fucking time. So this makes sense for Saints Row. I'm on board.
All right.
Start slow and work your way up to crazy.
So let's talk about some like weird flex bro moments here in the news. So last week or the week before, we talked about how the heads of Anthem over at BioWare were stepping down from the game and that they were going to go work on the new Dragon Age game.
Yeah.
Like, that was the
And
shift in
internet
power
pretty
that
much
happened.
went, well, this game's dead anyway. So
Right. And so like weird flex, bro, because like the people behind Anthem right now put out a series of tweets this week trying to reinforce the fact that they are in quotes here 100% committed to Anthem.
Oh, they are, because legally they have to give out the things that they said they were going to.
Yeah.
Because of the way the expansion pass thing works, you have
Mm-hmm.
to. You do have to release those where you have to return everybody's money.
Yeah.
Like you're legally obligated, right? So they're going to do that, but they also decided to change the timetable to we don't know when any of it's coming out.
And don't forget
So-
that keep this in the back of your head for later on in the podcast that we are talking about games as a service, and this is definitely going to come into play when we talk about games as a service.
Yes.
Anthem's going to be a big part of that. But it was really weird that they were so busy emphasizing over the course of the week, just tweeting all the time, like, we're 100%
Dude,
committed
you
to
have
Anthem.
to. I mean, they don't have another game coming out for quite a while.
yeah.
I mean, this is their baby right now, and yes, these expansion stuff will come out, but you have to try and reassure your audience that you are working on something. You are going to release the content that they want. You are going to make changes to something
Yeah.
that is a live service. Again, we'll get more into this later, and I totally understand that they're having to come out and kind of say these things, and they haven't been the greatest at the way they're saying it, but you got to say something, otherwise people are just getting angrier and angrier. I mean,
Now we don't
population's already
now
gone down.
we don't
super.
comment on rumors or speculation. That's just not the type of show that we are. But there was at least a rumor that was floating around the mill today that somebody that works at BioWare called the new Dragon Age basically like Dragon Age Anthem.
Yeah, there is I've heard the rumor from it's been over the past week or so that whenever the heads from Anthem, whenever switched over back over to Dragon Age, there were a lot of rumors like, hey, is this going to be the games as a service version of Dragon Age? And a lot of it was, yeah, kinda.
Right.
And everybody going like, eek, that's a bad idea.
Well, it's still early. This is all rumors and speculation at this point.
We know nothing about it. We've seen one weird trailer thingy, and that's it.
Yeah,
and honestly, I mean, I don't really care about Dragon Age anyway.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, if they did another Dragon Age Origins style game, I'd be perfectly content.
Yeah.
Like, the Dragon Age Origins was an excellent game. Can I just get more of that? Like, you don't...
Dragon Age Double Origin.
I think I was talking to Hector about it this week, or today, actually, and I was just like, you could just re-release Dragon Age Origins with an expansion pack and maybe a new coat of paint, and I'd be happy with that. Like, that
For you, that'd be great.
It doesn't take much for me at that point.
But unfortunately, you are not the default Dragon Age fan.
That is understandable. Yeah, I am definitely not. I've only played that one. Like I said, the news this week is really weird, and we're going to continue down this train. We found out this week that the Rocket League's developer, Psyonix, was acquired by Epic Games.
Boo.
This has a lot of implications that we should get into.
Yeah, also, side note on this real quick. Because of this acquisition, Rocket League has been... ratings bombed all over Steam.
Right. And
like,
Steam is trying
bad.
to compensate for that.
They're not doing so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get it.
So what does this actually mean for our audience who may be a little bit more not knowledgeable about this kind of acquisition? What does this mean for this company?
Well, Epic Games in general, all the companies that are under it are going to be under the Epic Games launcher, meaning this will be removed from Steam. People will not be able to purchase it or play it on the Steam library. They will have to switch over to using the Epic launcher, which, as we've said on the show many times and out of the show a lot, is a super insecure
Huge
launcher,
security risk.
massive security risks. They want all of your information, and they don't want to give you any type of...
And they don't secure that information
They
at
don't
all.
secure it at all.
Yeah.
It's bad. Like, honestly, if your kids are playing... What game is that? The Apex Legends? Uninstall that shit and make sure you, like, completely delete their accounts. It is bad. You do not want that information out there, because it takes one hacker, and your life is screwed. And... Rocket League is a really, really popular game.
Very popular game.
It's a multi-generational game. Old people play it, young people play it, middle-aged people play it, because it's fucking soccer with cars. It's not complicated. It gets more complicated, but at its core, it's a very simple game.
Yeah.
That said, if the company decides to, say, remove it from Steam, where it does have this layers of security that are there to help people, and say you can only get it through the Epic launcher, the community's very much up in arms about this. Mind you, they've said that they're not making any announcements about that kind of thing right now. They just said the acquisition, but I mean, you can see the writing on the wall.
Epic Games has been making a lot of moves to have exclusives, and that's how they were trying to compete with Steam, and that's the logical way to do it.
Yeah, they can't buy Fortnite, but they can. I mean, why? Because they already released Apex Legends anyway.
Yeah.
But they can buy something that does have a huge fan base that is constantly growing, that is reaching international stardom. There are tournaments for this sort of thing.
Absolutely.
There are large money.
People win a lot of money.
There's a lot of money at play on these things, and that's. The idea of putting that into Epic and Tencent's hands sounds a horrible idea to me.
And mind you, before this, Psyonix was really leading the charge in the industry for cross-platform play. We've talked about this a lot on the show, that prior to this acquisition, Psyonix really were the ones that were like, we literally, all we have to do is flip a switch, and then everything becomes cross-platform. It's not complicated.
Because they had to add the switch in. They literally explained, when the game first launched, it had cross-platform play, and then Sony said, the fuck it does, and they had to turn it off. They literally had to add more code into their game to make it not cross-platform.
Right.
That's what they came out and said this shit. And they're the ones...
They were the ones leading the charge, saying that all games going forward...
They said every game should always have cross-platform. If you're releasing it on multiple systems, why the fuck not play together?
Exactly.
That's...
But here's the issue, is that now Psyonix has been acquired by Epic Games, and I'm worried personally that opinion that really was, the big vocal voice saying cross-platform is important might get silenced by the people who own it.
I don't think it will. I think that there will be an addendum to that voice. It will be, we must have cross-platform play as long as you go through the Epic launcher.
Right.
And that I'm going to be like, no, I'm
That's a hard
hard
no.
fucking no.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I'm worried about the future for Psionic with them, being attached to Epic Games now. I honestly, when I first heard this news, all I thought in my head was, I bet you if they got any kind of payday out of this, like some of the heads over at Psionic were like, I'm going to take my payday and it's time to go at this point.
Yeah, if we see over the next, I'd say 6 months, that the people in charge over at Psionics, or even just the employees, anybody that had basically stock options, cashing that shit out, they're like, I just got my fucking payday. I am the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And honestly, you know what? If the game crumbles, and I'm super okay with that.
I know, but Rocket League just has such a great following. I mean, when you really look at it, and it's so weird to talk about this because it is literally soccer.
The fans aren't assholes.
Right, it's soccer with cars. Everybody plays nice with each other. But also, kind of on the other side of that coin, it's one of the few games that is a games as a service. Let's keep talking about this that we're going to be leading into.
It's the entire show.
It is games as a service that has been growing in its player base year after year. More and more people are actually tuning in to watch Rocket League and watch these big tournaments for no reason other than the fact that it's a lot of fun to watch and it's a very simple premise. It's an esport that is accessible to everybody. When you go to watch Overwatch League,
dude, they're playing so fucking fast and so complicated. It's hard to keep up unless you have played the game enough to understand what's going on.
Exactly, but when you're watching Rocket League, I mean, it's
it's like, he kicked the ball over there.
Yeah.
He kicked the ball over there. Okay, cool. He scored.
Right,
like,
and that's the
you
reason.
Know what's going on instantly.
Right, and so Rocket League has this big, following right now that picks up more and more year after year because people can watch this very simple esport and get into it without a whole lot of explanation. I'm worried that we're going to lose that community. That community is going to go somewhere else with Epic Games taking over. Now, this is all predicated on whether or not Epic Games decides to go in and start fucking with the formula.
Yeah, no, it's.
They should not. They should leave it as it is.
I would like, in a perfect world, they'd be like, cool, we just bought the company so we can make more revenue and add Rocket League as also one of the games you can get in the Epic's launcher, but we're leaving it in Steam. We're allowing it to play everywhere. That'd be great. That's a perfect world.
Yes.
We super do not live in a perfect world.
I totally understand that, but it's a very complicated issue that we're going to know probably, like you said, 6 months. We're going to know where this stands.
We'll figure things out probably by then. I mean, it's just a shame.
It is.
I get it. I get why you sell out, but maybe you don't.
We said when we first started this podcast.
We were instantly selling out. If
somebody
wants to pay us, I'm the fuck on board.
We'll sell out in a minute.
I will move me to wherever. Like you got to move to New York and do this. Cool. Move to New Jersey, maybe. Florida, hell no.
That's a hard no for you.
Florida, Louisiana, and New Jersey are 3 places I just do not want to live.
Yeah.
And like Utah.
Okay, so Tony, you were a fan of the movie Dark Knight.
Yeah, Dark Knight was good.
The writer for that was David Escoyer.
Yes.
You're a big fan?
Yes, he's written many things that I have very much enjoyed.
Yeah.
Some things I've been like, meh, but whatever.
I've also heard that you're a fan of the Hellraiser series.
Yes, well, we're both fans of the Hellraiser series.
Calling me a fan of the Hellraiser series is like the understatement of the year. Let's just put some context on that.
We literally bonded over watching direct-to-DVD fucking Hellraiser movies because I had Netflix and no one else did.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. That was high school. It was weird. So we found out this week that David Escoyer, who wrote The Dark Knight, is currently working on a reimagining of Hellraiser.
So this isn't like we've had this is probably like the 7th time we've talked about a reimagining or a continuation of Hellraiser on this show because everybody wants to do this. We've had some really cool like fan work on stuff that was amazing. We were like, yes, just give them the rights. It's fucking beautiful. And then we've had the original team trying to get back to do everything, and then there was like other people that were doing stuff. This is Ghostbusters 3 all the fuck over again.
Oh yeah, it's the whole reimagining Hellraiser is just a giant mess. The best thing we got was that kind of like fan-made trailer that they did for what was called Hellraiser Origins.
Yeah, and that was the one that was like, I totally want to see Hellraiser Origins. That would be awesome. As for a reimagining of it, that's when the chat was asking. That's kind of what I'm asking. I don't know what the reimagining is going to entail.
Right now, they're calling it a big-budget, proper reboot of the Hellraiser franchise, possibly.
Okay, so everybody who wanted Doug Bradley in there, sorry.
Probably going to be gone.
Not happening.
So what we're looking at here is we've got a very famous writer who's penned The Dark Knight, but just for a second, just
He's handled a lot of characters that aren't his own and being able to do them incredible
And
justice.
he's apparently a huge Clive Barker fan. He says that he reads like every Clive Barker book. He's been obsessed with everything that Clive Barker puts out.
Just not a Tumblr.
But let's take don't go on Clive Barker.
Actually, no, you can now because all of that would have been removed from Tumblr.
It's very true. But here's the thing, guys. Like, here is the thing. And that is that, yes, David S. Goyer worked on The Dark Knight, but he also worked on Blade 2.
Hey, fuck you. Guillermo del Toro fucking directed Blade 2.
He wrote it. All right.
Yeah.
Of course, he worked on Batman Begins, which everybody loved, right? They were very excited about that. But he also worked on Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yeah. See, like I said, he's done some things I'm not too happy with.
So let's really try and
Okay, and as a writer working for a giant studio like Warner Brothers,
That's true.
you're handed a lot of like, these are the things that have to happen in this story.
Right.
And you're like, well, that's dumb. I'll write it, but that's dumb. And that's what you have to do. Sometimes you have to write Batman for some reason taking a giant thing of kryptonite and boiling it down to one fucking blade thing instead of using all the shards to put in bullets to shoot him with. It's fucking stupid. I'm still mad about this shit. Oh my god, that fucking movie. And then Martha, God, why did you bring up this movie? You bringing me back to where I didn't want to be.
Man, you just PTSD'd all over this thing.
Oh god, just stating the name of that movie is enough to send me to fucking blind rage.
But yeah, I mean, of course, he's done good things, he's done bad things. But this idea that he wants to work on what he calls a loyal, evolved reimagining, those are his words for what this is. It could be very good. It could also be very bad. I know that chat pointed out that it's going to be very difficult to watch a Hellraiser that doesn't have Doug Bradley.
Well, I did watch one that didn't have Doug Bradley,
absolutely.
and it was not good.
Yeah, that was
And
not-
that wasn't because Doug Bradley wasn't in it. It was just not
was
good in
just
general.
not good.
Apparently, Angels for some reason, and I was like, no, hard pass.
Yeah, it was
The
really
plot line was
weird.
just like just bad.
It was weird.
Yeah,
It was
you
very
just
weird.
fucked up Cenobites altogether.
Yeah, like I was really drunk for that movie, and I don't think I was drunk enough for that.
No, by the end of it, we went outside, both of us, we were shit-faced, and we were so angry and so drunk, all we did was sit there and we just bitch for like 3 hours
Yeah.
and kept drinking.
Yeah, I have some recollection.
I just remember that every time we get a new drink, 'cause we were like, we're done. No, we're getting another beer and we're going back outside so we can bitch more about this.
But I don't know. The Hellraiser franchise is so near and dear to my heart, and I worry. I worry for it every time I hear news about it because I'm like, oh God, please let this be good. And you know what? I want to be the open-minded one that says that I believe that people can play Pinhead that are not Doug Bradley. It's going to be difficult, but you know what? I honestly, I'm the one in the minority that really like the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street.
You know, I did like the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street. I think that this is in the favor of the film with having David S. Goyer going on and having the studio overall being like, no, we're going to studify this one. We are going to put some fucking money in it. We're going to do it justice and make it the entity that it should be.
Right.
And you know what? I immediately was like, you know what? Who they could cast is Pinhead. Honestly, they should probably write Pinhead out and just go with a whole new generation of Cenobites.
Right.
Because that would be more interesting for me.
Yeah.
But if you're bringing it Pinhead, The Rock could do it. He's already got the haircut.
Oh my God, not The Rock. Jeez, get your fucking Fast and the Furious out of my fucking Hellraiser, please. Let me have
Okay,
this one
then
thing.
maybe Vin Diesel. He's also got the haircut for it.
You know what? I could actually probably see Vin Diesel.
Vin
doing
Diesel
it.
would be fucking terrifying.
Yeah, he would be so
as any
terrifying.
Cenobite.
Yeah, just anything.
Just have him.
He
voice
probably
like-
could have made the CD Cenobite from 3 look impressive at that
God, that
point.
was so bad.
Yeah, it was just horrible.
Oh, why are we going? Like, why do we? love
I
these
blame
movies
chat.
so much?
Chat brought it up. It's completely on them. Okay, so let's jump out of the Hellraiser here. And this is, again, kind of rumors and speculation. But Ron Howard kind of came out this week and said that he is currently entering discussions, or discussions are underway. That was the exact phrasing to be accurate about it.
Discussions are underway.
To turn the movie Willow into a Disney Plus TV series.
I'm just leaving the silence there.
So I don't know. So
about
a
it.
lot of
Talk
our
about
audience
that.
may not know the movie Willow. I feel like it's a movie that like everybody should have
Weirdly,
seen.
all right. So I
But,
watched
like,
a show called The Goldbergs,
Yeah.
and it's a show that takes place in the '80s, and the kids obsessed with pop culture. And Willow apparently came out like on Mother's Day weekend,
Mm-hmm.
and he blew his mother off to go watch Willow. And then, like, because he thought it was gonna be it was George Lucas's next movie after Star Wars, it's
Right.
gonna be amazing.
Yeah.
He went and watched it and was like, "Oh, yes, that happened."
You know, first
And
off,
that's what happened with Willow. It's
first
that
off,
happened.
I fucking love that movie,
Dude, it's fun because we were kids But if you go back and watch Willow,
No, like,
it is.
I had so many toys of the general with this fucking skull mask. Like I was obsessed with
Oh yeah,
Willow
no,
as a
he
kid.
was cool as shit. Willow was cool as shit. Fucking Val Kilmer was not fat yet, so I guess that's a plus.
And Willow's a very weird movie because it's a story of like this dude finding a baby in a floating down a river and then like trying to protect it with Val Kilmer being drunk half the time. Like that's the
you know
basic.
what? They
premise
could
of
bring him
Willow.
back in that. He doesn't really have to change. I mean, he's just fat drunk now.
That is true. And they really do want to get Warwick Davis to kind of come back and maybe reprise the role. We don't know how it's all going to work out or what's going to come of it at this point. Again, I loved Willow growing up.
I
as
would
a
like to
movie.
see Ron Howard's take on this, turning Willow into like an Arrested Development style television show where Ron Howard voices over Willow and explains how incredibly dumb the entire thing is.
It's entirely possible they could do that. You know, it could be like the outtakes or something like that.
I think it would be great. Basically, I need Ron Howard to voice over everything that Ron Howard's ever done. I think it would be great. I'll love it. I'll go back and watch Andy Griffith Show. It'll be amazing.
Okay. So we know that Disney Plus is a thing, and it's going to be kind of tied to Hulu. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. You could get Disney Plus added at a reduced rate if you have Hulu.
Yeah, and we were like, cool, that's exactly what we'll probably be doing.
Right. We're hearing a lot of things about Disney trying to just acquire the rest of Hulu so that it just owns it flat out. Because they have part of it. They don't have all of it, but they got part of it. And so that means that something that we mentioned kind of briefly a couple weeks ago is that what Disney is wanting to do is take some of their more family-friendly shows for the Marvel Universe and put them on Disney Plus. And then when you want to make something a little bit more adult-related, you would put that on Hulu, right?
I mean, makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So
And
things like, let's say, Runaways might get switched over to Disney Plus.
Right, it's more
Because
family-friendly.
It's more family friendly. It is, it's for a teenager show. It's fine. It's not dark. It's not scary or anything. It's acceptable. But I think that if they really wanted to follow the comic books, it would have to be on Hulu. It'd go back there because it is an actual darker comic book that shows some really fucked
but like
up
we're
things
hearing about
happen.
this like Vision and Wanda Maximoff
Yeah, I
series.
would
And
expect that to be on Disney Plus.
right. That's what they're kind of going with for that. And so what we found out this week is that first off, we're getting a spinoff. This is the first actual spinoff in the MCU, believe it or not. Like you can consider things spinoff, like Shield's a spinoff of the MCU movies. No, this is a genuine, true spinoff. Ghost Rider.
Yeah, so
From-
that Ghost Rider
from
started
Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D..
started in Agents of Shield. So spin-offs, I mean, movies can get additional movie universe stuff.
Yeah.
But we don't count those as really spin-offs.
Right.
But TV shows get spin-offs. And this is the first time you're taking a character that showed up in Shield, not part of the major not part of any of the MCU outside of the Shield.
Yeah.
And is getting its own show. Awesome for one, because Ghost Rider's awesome as shit. And actually that was the one part of the Shield. Like when I stopped watching it, basically whenever that plot line was
It's
done.
just called Shield. This Shield is a totally different show.
Yeah, whatever. I don't care. I'm gonna pronounce things the way I wants to say them. So the Shield's got Ghost Riders, and that was the last plot lines that I watched. Just gonna pluralize everything now.
Yeah, so for me, I'm kind of digging on it because I did enjoy Ghost Rider in Shield. The version of Ghost Rider they were using, Gabriel Luna, I really enjoy. He's one of the ones that I've been reading a bit in the comics lately, and he's a very fascinating kind of version. He because his human side really does play into a lot of who he is as a person,
And
you know,
why the spirits and visions
why he
inside
does
of
what
him.
he does. I think it's going to be really cool. And the fact that when I first read the headline, it was just Ghost Rider was getting his own show, and I was thinking, my mind instantly goes, "Oh, it's Johnny Blaze. We're going to retell that story. That's what we're doing." And then as I was kind of filtering through the news, it was like, "No, this is the guy from Shield. That's what we're going to do. We're going to kind of expand on that story."
Whenever I first read about this, and it was like, okay, Ghost Rider's getting a series, and it first said that it was going to be, was it Gabriel?
Yeah.
I immediately went, cool. Can this be an anthology series where that's the first season, and then after that we
now,
can
Robbie
have...
Reyes is the character.
Yeah.
Right.
So sorry, got the name wrong. It's too many names. Yeah, no, I wanted him to be the first season. Then after that, we could have like the Ghost Rider that was in Vietnam. We can have the Ghost Rider that was in the Old West. We can have the Ghost Rider that was in like, I don't know, take whatever war in the 11th century.
This whole thing is really cool. But this is just one of the announcements. The second one is that Marvel's doing a show called Hellstrom, and they're taking this character. I believe his name is Damian Hellstrom. I'm familiar with him through like the various Marvel games that I play. Just not that familiar with him in the comics.
Yeah, I actually don't know really him at all.
But yeah, he is basically like a dude from hell. Like straight.
I mean, with
up.
the name, it seems a little bit on the nose.
It is a little on the nose, but Marvel in the 70s, that's what happened.
Yeah.
A little bit of LSD, you make things a little bit on the
I
nose.
mean, it's.
But these are two.
Some of these names I just can't.
These are two characters whose premises are completely based in hell. They're based around Mephisto, which means could we be seeing Mephisto enter the Marvel universe?
Maybe.
Like that's a bold choice.
Honestly, with these two characters and the fact that they are TV series, I think so. And I think maybe Mephisto gets his own show called Afterlife with Mephisto, and it would be really cool. Because it would be a comedy, it'd be like a multi-camera comedy.
Right.
I think
right.
That's what he deserves. Honestly.
Chat really wants to see Cosmic Ghost Rider, and I would too.
Dude, the budget for that show would be ridiculous.
It would just be insane.
It would also require everybody from the movies to be in it.
Yeah, I feel like if you did Cosmic Ghost Rider as a show, you'd have to have like 20 years or 30 years of Marvel Cinematic Universe behind you, because he would just do like everything weird. He'd have to go like all through the history of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to do what he does. Okay, so our last news for the weekly raid, for our news roundup. This is going to be a difficult one to talk about because we need to talk about Borderlands 3. We need to have a very candid conversation about Borderlands 3 this week. So what...
I'd almost forgotten that this is something we had to talk about this week.
What had happened in the news this week concerning Borderlands 3? Obviously, Borderlands 3 was shown. We've talked about it on the podcast previously. It looks amazing.
We immediately
fantastic.
went, holy shit, I can't wait till September to play this. It's what I've been wanting for about 7 years now.
Yeah. And everybody, the internet was just all excited about Borderlands 3. And then, Tony, what happened?
And then Twitter happened. I can't remember the head of...
so you're talking about Randy Pitchford, who's the CEO?
Randy Pitchford, the CEO of...
Gearbox.
I'm trying to remember all the names. He decided to take to Twitter to show his unhappiness with
Game Informer.
Game Informer. I was almost going to say IGN. It's one of the two.
Yeah.
Game Informer's coming out and stating exactly what they were told by one of the developers at the launch showing of Borderlands 3, stating that the game will have microtransactions. When you have one developer say the game will have them, this is how they're going to work, and then you have Mr. Pitchford,
who is on stage
specifically stating there will be no microtransactions in this game, and then to much applause.
Right.
And everybody was like, yay. And that was kind of the end of it until this article came out, and he decided to blow his angry load all the fuck over Twitter and say things he really shouldn't have, directed to Game Informer and the editor-in-chief of Game Informer.
Right. So essentially the way this whole thing breaks down is there are microtransactions, and we're stating that for the record, there are microtransactions in Borderlands 3.
If you are taking a small amount of money and giving it to someone else for a thing, it is a microtransaction.
Right.
It's not hard to figure out.
All this stuff is going to be, costumes or alternate colors for your character. It's all arbitrary
Skins
stuff
for your car or something.
That doesn't affect the game itself. But these are 110% microtransactions. However,
according to Mr. Pitchford, they are micro DLCs.
Right.
Or not micro, I don't know something. He called them mini DLC.
Mini DLCs.
And I'm like, cool, that's not a thing, even though you tried calling them that in 2, and we're like, those are still microtransactions.
But here's the thing of the whole. This is the whole issue behind the whole thing behind this is that if he had been up front and on stage, and when he was asked, what kind of microtransactions will you have in Borderlands 3? If he had simply said, it will have the same model as used in Borderlands 2, a model which, by the way, the internet loved. They were fine with it.
Yeah, they're like, cool. These don't affect me whatsoever. I can earn a bunch of them just by playing the fucking game. I don't have to give a shit about this.
The only thing you really had to pay for if you were playing Borderlands 2 is the big expansion, the big $15, $20 expansions.
All the 99-cent stuff meant nothing.
Arbitrary. If he had just said it's the same model that we use in Borderlands 2, nobody would give a shit.
Yep.
But he said on stage, no microtransactions, and then got redacted and said, no, we do have microtransactions. And then he went to Twitter and basically called Game Informer a bunch of liars.
He used the F word a lot, actually.
He did, a lot.
He said, "You are fucking lying," multiple times.
Right.
He literally lost his fucking mind on Twitter.
But we have to get to the core of this argument. And I know this is going to come up when we talk about everything in our boss room this week, because microtransactions are a big part of games as a service, is that the reason that Randy Pitchford went on Twitter and got angry because Game Informer said there are microtransactions in Borderlands 3.
Because one of the developers of the game said, specifically, these are microtransactions.
Right, but the reason that Randy Pitchford was getting angry about this is that the word microtransaction in the games industry has a very negative connotation.
Oh, it's a naughty word. You don't say that.
It's a naughty word. You don't say it. And so them labeling Borderlands by slapping that microtransaction label on it immediately makes Borderlands 3 look not as good as it did 5 minutes ago when he said there's no microtransactions,
Which is, again, it's completely understandable. He doesn't want the term microtransactions associated with his game. If he had just said that it follows the Borderlands 2 model, literally just said Borderlands 2 model for transactions or in-game content or DLCs, everybody would be like, cool, done. We don't care. That's acceptable.
Yeah.
But when you specifically say no microtransactions, and then but calling them something else and saying that's not a microtransaction, everybody going, yeah, that fucking is.
Yeah.
You don't know how words work.
It's very true. So he went off. I'm pretty sure that come Monday, like they had a big board meeting to talk about his behavior.
In the article did get an addition later on in the day that was a press release from Randy Pitchford from Gearbox, and you can see within that half of it obviously was him still being angry, and the other half was written by somebody else doing corporate talk, going, "We're trying to fix this."
Right.
And like it literally reads as two different people trying to like write a press release about the same thing, but one's really angry and one's like trying to be corporate cool about it.
Right.
It's a very odd read.
So there's a lot to break down here that we just don't have the time to get into. Borderlands 3 hopefully will not suffer because of what the CEO has done. It's still going to be very popular. It's still going to sell well, but people are getting angrier and angrier about this game. And I feel like the board over at Gearbox is going to have to a big sit down this week.
They're going to have something to say about that.
Yeah.
Honestly, like the way I put it immediately afterwards when I was reading all the news and reading the articles and reading Twitter about all of this was that I was thinking, the way I put it was, okay, so the release of Borderlands 3, or not release, the showing of Borderlands 3 was an amazing, wonderful Sunday of awesome, tasty deliciousness. And then he had to go put one fucking shit corn nugget shit on top of it. Now the whole thing's ruined. You ruined the whole thing by blowing this stupid thing out of proportion.
When all you had to do
is be like, that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
That's all he has is that's not what I meant. Like that. Okay.
So microtransactions, obviously a really big deal in the games industry right now, and we do have a lot to say about it because microtransactions are a form of games as a service. So we're going to take a small break, and when we come back, we'll be going into our main topic for the podcast this week, which is games as a service. I just need to grab a drink real quick.
I do too.
Hi, everybody. How you doing?
You grab me one. They're in the bottom of the thing. And that allows me to click save show. And then I gotta type some shit. This is 308?
Yes.
Okay, cool. 308. Save. I'm gonna try out this Keyboard Warrior beer. I think that's what it was called. I don't remember. I already forgot. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's. I'll read this while you're doing things. This hazy IPA is proven to maximize your trollability, i.e., correcting misspelling words. Misspelled words. I read that wrong. Posting offensive memes and disrupting any conversations being held online in a forum, blog, or website. Enjoy it in a poorly lit room, preferably in front of at least 2 screens, to properly consume the massive amounts of Kashmir, Azkata, and Eldorado hops. Weirdly, I'm doing this in a poorly lit room with 2 screens in front of me, so I'm following the directions of Keyboard Gangsta. That's a West Coast Hazy IPA. That's what I'm gonna be drinking. It's a very trolly. There's cheese balls. There's a lotion. There's a bottle of lotion with tissues next to it. There's swords and a kung fu outfit. This is just it's so good. They're trolling the trolls so hard. How are we? We're doing good. Is everybody doing good? I think we're all doing good. I think we just need to drink more beer. The world would be a lot more peaceful if people just drank more beer. That's the one thing I did learn from Game of Thrones this week on Sunday. Everybody's happy if you just sit around and drink a bunch.
Sorry, I had to get her some wine.
It's okay. You're getting wine. I'm going to take a sip of this gangsta. It has an A at the end. It's got to kind of say it that way.
All right. Good to go.
I mean, I literally just read the back of a beer can. while
How
you were
exciting. You have such a great, set of acting chops on you when I step away from the camera.
I mean,
really.
it's not necessarily
You're a
acting
professional.
chops. It's more of like a...
Did you take improv courses that I didn't know about?
No. I have been looking up comedy in Austin recently to see what's coming up. There's a lot of improv stuff here, and I'm not the biggest fan of improv.
Yeah.
Just
It's an art form, Tony. You should respect it.
no, I don't. No, it's not.
Do you ever watch Whose Line Is It Anyway? That show is brilliant.
Yeah, we're not. Yeah, sure. I mean, there are some people who are very good at improv. There are 99% of them that are fucking awful.
Okay, let's jump into this. We're
All
going to be
right.
talking about games as a service. Feel free
The
to
service of games?
Feel free to chime in with any comments you guys have over in chat. This is going to be a lot to unpack, and we're going to try to do our best to both explain it and talk about the pros and cons of it. So
Let me take a sip of this before we go on. I need to see if I need to drink it or not.
let's do it.
That's pretty fucking good. Juicy. It's definitely
Juicy. It's a
gonna give it
juicy
shot.
beer.
Yeah, it's got juiciness to it. And the cheeks. Juicy cheeks.
Juicy cheeks.
Yeah.
You can see it.
Keyboard gangsta. Let's troll some people now.
All right, let's do.
Maybe this just become the the national beer of the Silly Nerd.
All right, let's
I
do
need to
this.
write some letters. Boss Room.
Hey, adventurers, welcome back to the show. This is the Boss Room. It's our main talking point for the podcast, sometimes related to the news, sometimes not. So, our Boss Room this week, our big discussion is going to be about games as a service. So, it's going to be a pretty tough subject. And to be fair, games as a service is something that has been popping up in the media more and more. There was a video over the last week that was called, like, on YouTube, like, games as a service is fraud. And there's a bunch of other kind of similarly themed videos. And while we as a podcast try not to jump on industry trends when we do our show, I do feel like this is important enough for us to try and get into. So let's start off with the boring stuff, which is to define what games as a service is. So Wikipedia defines games as a service as, in video gaming, games as a service represents providing video games or game content on a continuing revenue model similar to software as a service. Games as a service are ways to monetize video games either after the initial sale or to support a free-to-play model. Games released under the games as a service model typically receive a long or indefinite stream of monetized new content over time to encourage players to continue paying to support the game. This often leads to games that work under a games as a service model to be called living games or live games since they continually change with these updates. Some examples of games as a service include game subscription services, cloud gaming or on-demand gaming, microtransactions, and season passes. All right, now that that's out of the way, the first question...
Congratulations. You did that pretty fucking good and pretty fucking fast.
Thank you. Our first question for the panel is, all that shit that I just spouted, what does this actually mean to the average gamer? What does this jargon actually
Well, I mean, when
translate
you originally think, or to me, when you think of games as a service, I think of things like EverQuest or WoW, original MMOs, where you paid a monthly fee to keep partaking in a game universe.
Right.
And that was because, keeping servers up. And you bought the game and you had to keep paying for it which is kind of shitty to do at this point in the time. MMOs need to back off on the making us pay for server space. We're already giving enough in microtransactions, which is something that was added to games as a service later on. We've seen this model didn't exist before the internet. Games came out and were done. and you hope there weren't any bugs in them.
Right.
Like you had to catch every single one, otherwise, your game's broken and no one wants to buy it. Now you can patch things. Now you can add additional content. Going back to the original Xbox, Halo had the ability to purchase an additional disc that had new maps in it to play with your friends, and that continued down to the point where internet speeds increased, hard drives increased. You could then download those said things instead of having to go to a store and purchase them. Games such as EverQuest and Final Fantasy had expansions that came out that were available digitally only that you could add on to your game, continuing the experience.
I remember playing Final Fantasy 11, which is an online game, and they actually had a series of 3 mini expansions that you could only buy digitally. There was no physical copy of them, and that blew my fucking mind. I was like, wait, I don't have to go to the store and fucking buy a copy of the disc.
Yeah. Which is, you think about that, at that point, you're like, that's fucking amazing. I remember the first time I downloaded a Halo map instead of having to get a disc and put it in my Xbox. It was like, holy shit, I can just download the thing and it works. And now that's the only way I want to do things.
Right. And so games as a service is this dirty term that's being thrown around right now. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it. Because not everything, in my opinion, not everything about games as a service is dirty. When we talk about these forms of games as a service, we talk about game subscriptions, like what you would get with WoW. Game subscription services, which I mean specifically by that, the Xbox Game Pass.
Yeah, which Xbox Game Pass, for me, it's the best fucking value in gaming.
Right.
Because you get access to a lot of games for very cheap.
Right. Cloud gaming / on-demand gaming is a thing. Like PlayStation Now is an
PlayStation
example
Now
of that.
And soon Google's
Stadia.
I almost called it Stadium. Eventually I'll get it right, or they'll change the damn name.
Right. Then we have the games as a service such as microtransactions.
Which is every game.
Which is really something that originated with mobile games. There was this idea that you got a free game like Clash of Clans, and you would buy little like small transactions that would like boost your game speed or give you a loot box or something along those lines. And microtransactions have become a large monetization model in every kind of game going forward. You can look at things like loot boxes in Overwatch as your microtransactions, and then you have season passes, which is really the new hot shit that's coming out, where you release a game and then you sell a season pass for it. Even games like Destiny are starting to jump on this model of season passes, where you're like the season. Let's take for example something you don't even think about microtransactions with, Spider-Man. Spider-Man, the PS4 game, had a season pass you could get that would give you 3 DLCs that would last you about, I don't know, I'd say 2 to 5 hours a piece over the course of 3 pieces of DLC, which was an excellent investment. Those DLCs were excellent, by the way. But that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about the idea of games as a service, because we keep hearing this argument that games as a service is bad, it's gross. And a lot of times, 90% of the time it is. But it's not, as a whole, an evil thing. With that in mind, I think it's safe to say that the general opinion of games as a service is fairly negative. But why is that really? Why do we have such a negative opinion about games as a service?
I think it's more just it's video game companies or larger entities, things such as like overall EA, Activision. We're talking about like big names in it. The giant corporation is saying, it's cool that we're going to make games, but we need to find a way to get more revenue on a consistent basis every day from these people. Instead of just releasing one game for $60, you should release one game for $60 and find a way to get $5 the next week and $5 the next week, instead of having to pay to keep it up. And even then, games much like Spider-Man, games that have, as far as I know, there's no multiplayer on that. There's no server that you're connecting to. You can literally play it offline. And they're like, well, now we got to find a way to make additional revenue. And in some cases, like Spider-Man, it's just DLC. It's just additional DLC. It's like, here's more story that we wanted to tell outside of this game. There's one story here and a separate story over here.
Right.
You're paying for essentially another game, a smaller game. That seems to me to be completely acceptable. Right. It's fine. I get more story in the thing that I like. Then you get things like expansion passes, which aren't
your season passes.
Well, season passes and expansion passes are different things. Expansion passes are buying into all the expansions at once. You don't even know what that content is, but you're going to pay for it ahead of time anyway. Right. You're giving them money to sit in their bank account so they can add interest and not give you a product for a while. It kind of sucks and is really shitty when you think about it. Season passes are more meant for consistently releasing content on a weekly, monthly, bi-weekly basis.
So as an example of this, neither of us play Fortnite, but I'm familiar with the way the season pass works.
Yeah, they have a season pass. It's done very well. People, it's considered the pride of the season pass for people.
So Fortnite has a season pass. Basically, every season, a certain amount of items come out for that season pass. You can only acquire if you have the season pass. It doesn't affect gameplay at all, but it's something that if you play it enough, you want to get those extra items. You want to get those hats or dildos or whatever the fuck you get in Fortnite, whatever the thing is. And so
I don't know. Right now, it's in-game stuff, so it's Thanos and Hawkeye's bow and a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
You know what? I don't even. Play
I saw a commercial for it on YouTube.
I don't even play Fortnite, and I was looking at the end game stuff, and I'm like, I would play that to get the end game stuff, and that's where they get you. Like that's exactly
what it
where
is.
they get you.
They give you something like, isn't this one thing kind of cool? And you're like, yeah, that is kind of cool. Well, come join our cult.
And keep this in the back of your mind that games as a service, aside from the terminology, which is new, is not a new concept. You know, going back as far as, you know, the first Xbox.
Actually, our chat pulled out something even older that I completely forgot about. Sega Channel. Sega Channel was the first games as a service model.
Yeah.
And like, damn, that was a long time ago.
That would be considered a game subscription service.
Yeah.
Yeah, I used to go over to my friend's place. We didn't have the Sega Channel, but I had a friend that did.
Yeah.
And I had many a nights were spent hanging out together. And
I lived in the middle
Channel.
of fucking nowhere. No one had it.
Yeah.
I saw commercials for it. I saw the advertisements in the magazines and went, I'm never going to get to have that because I live where you can't have that.
Where you can't have that. So there are positives and negatives to games as a service. And the problem is that right now there's just a big negative label being put on it just across the board, which is understandable because when you think about games as a service, oftentimes you're thinking about the negative. You're thinking about loot boxes. You're thinking about microtransactions like horse armor that's just ridiculous. There's so much that goes into the negative connotation that we don't really talk about the positives. So that kind of brings us around to the next question, which is, are there any benefits to games as a service?
I think you actually mentioned one. You said horse armor. That immediately made me think immediately of paladins. Realms something, I don't know. Just call it paladins.
Heroes of the Realm, I think.
Yeah, it's just not Overwatch. It's a free-to-play game. And you get a default set of heroes for free. You just download the game, you can play these heroes. And over time, you can earn in-game currency to unlock additional heroes. Or you can buy their season pass, instantly get all their heroes. There you fucking go. And you can get their whatever seasonal armor stuff for those characters. One of the things they have is you actually have mounts in the game so you can run faster as horses, and you can buy seasonal horse armor.
It's one of the oldest jokes on the internet when it comes to this stuff.
And it's stupid and dumb, but I'm super okay with paying for a season pass when I know they're going to release 3 new characters or something, so I can have those characters and play them. I don't play that game very often, but when I do, I can be like, here's $10, and I get caught up on all the heroes that I've missed. I don't have to do it every single season. I get my new shit when I get my new shit. It's fun whenever I don't want to play Overwatch. Yeah.
Sure, and I mean, you bring an excellent point up. We do have to talk about the elephant in the room.
It's a free-to-play game,
which is Overwatch, which is a game that you pay $60 for.
Or 20 or 30 or however much depending on the sale.
Right, but you pay for this game and you get all the content within the game, but the model for is a microtransaction model. That's these loot boxes that exist in the game, and we've had many a discussion about loot boxes. Obviously, we have multiple episodes dedicated to it. You can go back and listen to them. But people tend to look at Overwatch.
TLDR, it's fucking gambling. There you fucking go.
Right, but people tend to look at Overwatch and say, all right, so you know what? It has loot boxes, but it's at least good guy loot boxes.
Yeah.
Right? It's at least you can earn it all in game. You don't have to worry about it, or you can get in-game currency, which you can just buy to buy the skins that you want. Everything in the model
if
for
you
Overwatch
work for it, you can get it without having to give them money. And that's the ideal. That's what I like about that model. I still don't like it because it's gambling, as you don't know exactly what you're going to get, but you can get them.
And I think that when I ask the question, are there any benefits to games as a service, I think that we're kind of ignoring something really huge, which is one of the big benefits to games as a service is it allows a company to create a game that they can distribute for free, that if people love it, they will latch on to it and then pay because they love the game. So let's take, for instance, League of Legends. It is a free game that you can get everything in the game just by playing it.
Yeah, there's no heroes that you have to unlock by paying for, as far as I know.
But if you want to buy a skin or
release
something,
a new hero, everybody gets it.
Right, but like in League of Legends, you still have to unlock it. But you get it during in-game currency.
play.
But-
You have to
right.
play, and you can unlock the thing.
Right. But in League of Legends, really all you have is if you want to drop some cash for a skin, you can. And I'm that dude. Like I played League of Legends back in the beta and I really dug it. And so every so often a character would pop up and I'm like, I totally want a skin for that. Doesn't affect gameplay, just want the skin, let's do
Yeah.
it. And so when we look at this, it is a game that was made on a tighter budget that was allowed to become bigger than it thought it could be because people invested money into it. It's what happened with Dota. It's what happened with so many games. Warframe. Right?
Actually, Warframe, free-to-play game where the only thing that you can purchase in the game, there are loot box things, but the only items are completely cosmetic. They do not affect the gameplay whatsoever, and that's how they make their revenue. They release some cool-looking stuff that you get to apply to your character or ship or whatever, and they keep releasing more content. And they've come out and said it multiple times, like, you pay us this money so we can pay our employees and keep making new content. And they haven't been shy about content. They've been giving a fuckload of free content out. That game has gone through massive overhauls over the last few years and adding worlds and worlds and worlds and more stuff. To this point, it's actually daunting to get into because there's so much game to play.
Absolutely.
And for completely free.
And it's a free-to-play game. And so that's one of the benefits to games as a service. I know Chat's mentioning that one of the great things about free-to-play games that are games as a service is that it gives you access to a game that you may not even think that you would want to play before.
Yeah.
Like you'd look at it and you're scrolling through Steam and you're like, this is a free-to-play game. I'll download it for 5 minutes and check it out. If you like it, maybe you'll invest $5 into it. That's what the games as a service provides. It gives these developers a chance to create something that people can vote with their wallet. Essentially,
Yeah, no,
whether or not
and
they
it's,
like
it's
it.
you get them hooked, and then they'll pay you money to play the thing that you like.
And the thing about it is that there are some predatory practices that exist when it comes to games as a service.
Yeah, no, I'm going to specifically point out one. It's in the mobile market.
Sure.
But this can very easily be transferred over to any other game that works in these models. And it's the idea that you have a time to do a thing in a game, whether it be it takes a crafting, it takes 5 hours real world time. It's like it's going to take you 5 hours, or
Right.
you pay us 99 cents. Oh, look, it's instantly done.
Right.
That kind of bullshit can
becomes
go
a
right the
very-
fuck off. Like just fuck right the fuck off.
That becomes a predatory practice. You also have things like honestly, the loot box controversy right now is going strong, and people all over the world are voting whether or not getting loot boxes in video games is considered game.
Literally voting, because this is going down to governments deciding, and multiple states in the United States have said these are gambling. We've had multiple countries, and if enough of them to come together in the European Union, there will be no more loot boxes in games in Europe.
Yeah.
Meaning every game has to change its model because that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah, so I do want to ask the question just before we get into the darker side of this. Can games as a service, like as a model for distributing your video game, actually make a game more enjoyable?
I think so. I think it can be a fun way to tell a story over a longer period of time. Chat pointed out earlier that it pushes back against crunch time and spaces out the dev process, and that's not true. That is super not true. In the case that I will bring up, it would be. It allows, think of Telltale. For the most part, when they're working on smaller, at the very beginning, or at the beginning of Telltale, they were able to take their time and release pieces of a game slowly.
Yeah.
And it allowed to extend the development process. You didn't have the crunch time going on. You had your employees being happy, but then you decided to make them make 7 games at once instead of 1, and crunch time turned into nonstop, and everybody's life sucked, and your company failed.
Yeah.
Because you basically put too much on the fucking pile. At the beginning, it made fucking sense. It allowed everybody to have this space. And that's when it works well. Things like the Telltale system, where every month you got part of a new story, because that's how long it took us to make that part of the story. That's cool. I totally appreciate that. I like that idea of having to tell a story over time to gain more chapters of it, like TV shows, like movies.
Let's get into this real quick, because we got to talk about something dirty. I mean, Destiny, your favorite
Yep.
game, the only game that you play.
I
is
play
games-
other games. I've been playing Borderlands too. So just, not Destiny.
but that's a games as a service model.
Yeah, no, it totally is. It's an MMO light game. It's generally called a looter shooter as its subgenre, but Borderlands 3 is a looter shooter, and it's not a games as a service, kinda.
Right. Kind of. But it
Kinda.
has,
It has a season pass and it has microtransactions. It's knocking more of those. It's checking more of those boxes off.
Yeah.
No, Destiny had its season pass with Warmind and Curse of Osiris. Destiny 2 had that. Destiny 1 had nothing but DLC expansions afterwards.
Which one can consider games as a service?
Yeah, I totally understand that, and that was you buy the original game for $60, and then you get additional DLC story stuff later on.
Yep.
Then they added microtransactions. Like, wouldn't it be cool to have your ship look like this? Wouldn't it be cool to make this honking noise? Wouldn't it be cool to wear?
I often ask myself what it would be like to make that honking noise, to be honest.
And you know what? That's what you did. You pressed the button, it did that, and you just flew around everywhere, annoying the crap out of literally everyone. I had so much fun doing that. I miss horns. Bring them back, please. I don't care if I have to pay for them. I just want fucking horns
You
back.
just want your Destiny vehicle to like play La Cucaracha while you're
Dude,
fucking...
it was so much fun. I kind of want to go back and play D1 just so I can run around honking my horn. But they've turned those into microtransactions. Then Destiny 2 came out, and they started with the same DLC model. Buy the DLCs, we'll have stuff in the microtransaction store for you to buy. It started getting more predatory, where they could put things that actually help your character
That was
out
going to be
in
my
there.
next question. Is do you feel like the practices that Bungie has going into Destiny 2 are predatory?
Well, whenever they were like, oh, we're going to put this armor in the pay store, and then you look at that armor, you're like, cool. All the stats are shit. It looks cool, but the stats are shit. And when the stats are the most important thing, you go, I'm just not going to wear that because the stats fucking suck. And they put random rolls on it. Now that when you get that thing from the store, it's got a random roll, and unless the random roll's good, why would you keep going after that? Unless you like the way it looks. So I think I originally said I would stop playing if they did this, but at this point, it's basically they made such a crap version of the thing you want that you don't want it. It's like, that's just bad. So you're like, why would I spend my time and money to get the thing that sucks? So at this point, it's kind of okay. Then they went on and made the expansion pass. They made a seasonal pass, expansion pass was the first one, then a season pass. And we've been getting weekly, sometimes bi-weekly content for over 6 months.
Is that something that you have to buy into?
Yes, it's you buy into it. You buy the entire season pass,
Sure.
and it unlocks. There's 3 sets. There's the one that's already been done. There's the one we're almost at the end of, and there's one that's coming up soon.
So they outlined what these
They've outlined these are.
you.
They actually show you. They give us a big outline saying, well, some of it says like redacted because they don't want to tell us everything that's coming out.
Right, but I mean,
they
give you a base outline saying that if you purchase a season pass,
Yeah,
this is what you're getting.
literally the date that we will be giving you stuff. They also say date subject to change,
Right.
But they show you what stuff everybody gets for free, no matter the season pass, because they make updates to the game. They show what you're getting for the season pass, what additional content's what's coming, what game modes are coming out, what kind of weapons and armor and things are going to be added into the game. If you just buy into it, and we'll weekly give you more shit to do, and that's what they've been doing. I've been having fun with it. First season was pretty fucking good. Second season that we're in right now, meh. Third one, I don't fucking know because I can't see the future.
And I mean, at that point, you're kind of answering this kind of question is, are there any benefits to games as a service? And what you're talking about is that you get to buy into the season pass, getting guaranteed content for your favorite game.
Yeah, no, look at, there's, when we talk about WoW, there's always the period of WoW gets all of its players to come back every time they make a big expansion.
Sure.
And everybody comes back on.
I'm eyeing that new Final Fantasy expansion right now.
You're going to get on there. You're going to play that story. You're going to play that content. You might get to max level. You might get the armor you want or whatever. And then you quit because there's no point in paying $15 a month for something that you're not getting that much enjoyment out of.
Exactly.
And that's what happens every single time. And then a year later, another big expansion will come out. And you hop on. You're on there for 2 months. And then you stop again.
Exactly.
They're not following the keep you addicted model.
Sure.
And that's one of the negatives.
To be fair, Final Fantasy did put microtransactions into Final Fantasy 14.
Did they?
It's all cosmetic. It's
Yeah,
things
well, that's where it starts.
It's a mount or a piece of armor.
Yeah, just wait till they sell a mount that runs a little bit faster than the other mount, and it's just cosmetic. It's just a mount, but this one's faster.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no, that's where they start. That's where they're gonna get you.
It's true. But I mean, that's the risk that you run when you go into this model. And I know that we sound like we're sitting here praising games as a service.
No,
and
because we're trying to give you like the little glimmer of hope.
We need to give you some perspective because just the phrase games as a service doesn't mean that a game is inherently bad. So to go back to our earlier topic when we were talking about Borderlands 3, the word microtransaction is a dirty word. But what is in Borderlands or specifically Borderlands 2, is microtransactions that isn't dirty. It's straight up just cosmetic. It's something you do not have to buy. It does not change anything.
There are microtransactions listed as additional story because it's DLC. Actually, in Steam, all of it's listed as DLC.
Right.
You know how many DLCs there are on Steam for this thing? Like 40 something. You know how many of them are hats and stupid shit for 99 cents? Like 35.
Yeah.
That's fucking stupid. Those are microtransactions.
Right.
That's not DLC.
And we're not sitting here trying to just kind of stroke the ego of everybody and say, like, I could feel people getting riled up, like, oh, they're defending, this whole like microtransactions.
Oh
and
no,
season
dude,
passes.
fuck that. I just want to play a fucking game. I
Right.
want to pay $90 and have all the shit you were going to give me for
Sure.
60, but at 90, so you don't have to fucking add in the games as a service microtransaction bullshit.
Right. So
Let me pay you more.
Sure, and I totally understand this because games are getting more and more expensive to make, and that's why this microtransactions and season passes and game subscriptions and all this stuff is coming, to the forefront right now, and why it's such a big deal and why it's such a dirty thing. But again, do not think for a second that we're sitting here just saying, oh, absolutely, just put microtransactions and everything. But we need to be intelligent about this. We need to discuss the concept of games as a service and what the pros and cons are so that we could talk about, and this is my big kind of key phrase for this discussion, best business practices when it comes to games as a service. So really, what is it at the core about games as a service that has people so riled up when they talk about it online?
Well, for me, it's games treating their players as a
ATM?
Yeah, ATM. I was gonna say a never-ending wallet. That it's they can just go over to and be like, "Hey, give me more, give me more. Why? I don't have a sparkly thing. Give me more." And you're like, "Okay, here's this. Fine, I guess." And it's hurts you. It's like the bully coming around like when you're in grade school, be like, "Give me your lunch money." Why? You didn't do anything to earn it.
Yeah.
Like, no, this is. I want to go do other things with this, and part of the that also sucks about it is the things like Destiny's case and any game that has that weekly, monthly release cycle is the fear of missing out. It psychologically makes you want to play, and if you don't play, then just pay into it and get the things so you can always have the things so you feel like you're with everybody
I know
else.
that we were saying positive things about it, but let's dial this back to the Fortnite season pass.
Yeah, no.
If you don't buy that season
if you don't buy
pass,
that season, you miss all those stupid costumes. And that's all they are, stupid fucking costumes. And then you're not the cool kid anymore. You don't have a floating fish head. Why didn't you have the floating fish head? What are you, some kind of noob? Your parents not love you? Do you not have money? Are you poor? That's exactly what you're going to get.
I think it's, are you a poor? Is the
what,
phrase.
what, I'm not 5. I don't play Fortnite.
But yeah, I mean, that's the whole, what you're saying is so true, is that these season passes, while Fortnite may have the best season pass out there, these are bigger issues where it creates this fear of missing out culture. It becomes predatory at some point. When you look at things like microtransactions and loot boxes, these are the things that people get riled up about because you can't go back and retroactively get those season passes. You can't just buy into that. Like,
there's every day a Reddit post where somebody asking Bungie to put the old season contents into some way of getting it, whether it be earning it through in the game or putting it back into the store, some way to get the things they missed out on. Because, I mean, shit, there's shit that I'm missing out on. I play that game a fuckload. There's straight up armor pieces I do not have. And you know what? I'm okay with that because I didn't play enough. And I refuse to pay into something that I don't want.
Lord, Chad is on fire today. I have to quote this. This is so good. This is coming from our chat channel saying the reason that we as consumers hate it is that they call it games as a service, but the actual business model is really customers as a service.
Yeah, no, we are the thing that they want.
Yeah.
They want we are the ATM that they need to exist.
Right.
And no longer are you getting a good, or you're paying for a good. You're paying for a service, and that service is a never-ending service. And that's where gaming sucks and starts to suffer.
Right. But I mean, we have to look at this, from both sides, which is why we're having this discussion. We didn't want to sit here and come in here like everybody else on the internet and go.
We mentioned multiple
and
times
say,
where it's kind of okay.
Right, like games as a service as a concept isn't a bad thing. It is
It's like communism. It totally works as a concept. In practice, it gets really predatory and real bad very quickly.
Right, but we look at things like you say, like Destiny, and you're like, that works for me. The model that they provided,
Yeah, the
it
things
works.
that they want me to buy in could be seen as not necessarily pay to win, but a revenue stream for strength.
Right.
Or
It's a different way to monetize a video game.
But it's so shitty that I don't care about it. I literally get them and go, chuck it in the vault. I'm never going to wear that. It's a piece of shit. It doesn't have the stats that I need. And I go get the things that actually have the stats that I need.
Right.
And then hope that they look okay.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, this is a very complicated issue when we talk about games as service because there are positives and negatives to it. This is a way that game companies can monetize their game that allows them to keep the life of a game going longer than probably it would normally.
No, look
which
at
is
some of the.
fantastic.
Let's take a look at some of the fighting games. You like those, right?
Love them.
All right. How many fighting games have turned into games as a service by adding additional characters after the games were launched?
Let's just look at Mortal Kombat for a minute. Like Mortal Kombat, we know.
Those characters were designed with all the other ones.
Mm-hmm.
We know for a fact that every DLC character had to be created with the other ones so they could balance them correctly.
It's been a hot button issue in the video game or in the fighting game community for a very long time.
They're not going to give you them with that $60 price tag. You got to pay $120 or something to fucking get all of them, or however much. I don't know. Battlefield's fucking numbers for unlocking Darth Vader. That was what, $3,000?
Yeah.
But that's not a fighting game. Though.
Right, but when we talk about fighting games, it's a hot button issue that's going on in the fighting game community for a very long time, which is, when Capcom comes out and says, here's Street Fighter V, here's the roster, also in 3 months, here's the 12 characters that we're releasing, and they're like, why would you announce that right when you're announcing the game?
Yeah.
Because that makes us know that you have already had those characters ready to go.
Yeah,
You're just going to nickel and dime us.
Yeah, no, Super Smash, before its release, showed you all the DLC characters. You're like, cool. Why aren't they just in the game?
Yeah.
Why are you making us wait for this? And I get it. It's to make you play the game longer, to keep
absolutely.
keep that life, keep it in the conversation.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, well, next week we get Persona as a character, because I don't know their names. They're all just Persona to me.
You're talking about Joker.
Yeah, Persona. He's in it. Or does he yell Joker? I don't think he yells Joker. I think he yells Persona. Either way, he's going to yell that in the game. But, in 3 months from now.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll, in 3 months, go, oh, yeah, shit, I remember Smash. Let's go play Persona guy. He's in it now. Let's do that. And it's a way to
He's just Persona guy to you.
Yeah, he's just, I don't fucking know. I'm not going to play Smash and I'm not going to play Persona. It's not shit that I ever want to give a fuck about, okay?
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of positives to games as a service, but there are so many predatory practices that are going on right now that it's really overshadowing the benefits because there are just so many negatives to this. There are so many great games out there like Warframe that would not exist without this free-to-play model, this games as a service
Yeah, no,
model.
and I know a lot of people who love Warframe, and they regularly they're like, I play the game for free, so why not give them $10 a month in me buying stupid shit because I got to put in a lot of hours into this game.
Right, and don't think that this concept that we're talking about as games as a service is going away anytime soon because we have PlayStation now.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Xbox Cloud stuff that they're working on. We
Yeah,
have Google
xCloud.
We have Google Stadia. All of this stuff is games as a service, and that means that a lot of these things you're not going to own a physical copy of.
Yeah, no, and that's the thing is you have to, with those in particular, with PlayStation Now, with xCloud, we don't know what its official name is going to be, but we know it's called xCloud for right now.
Yeah.
And with Stadia, you have to treat those the same way you treat Hulu and Netflix and every TV or movie subscription you have. You don't own that. You get it for a little while, and if you stop paying for it, you don't have it anymore. And for me, that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I get to enjoy the content that I want for the time that I have it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, some of those games do have microtransactions inside of them. Yeah. So you will never actually own that microtransaction thing until you actually own the game. In some cases, they do sales and be like, hey, you can buy this game outright for this, keep it forever. That's kind of cool that they do that from time to time.
And I mean, it keeps the servers on, it keeps the lights on, it keeps people fed, it keeps the developers happy, hopefully, and that's fantastic. Some of my favorite games were basically games as a service, like things like Phantasy Star Online was games as a service. Those servers don't exist anymore. Yes, you can go online and go onto servers, but you can't just boot up a Dreamcast.
Fan-made servers. You can't boot your Dreamcast, and then connect to a dial-up modem at all anymore.
Yeah, but I mean, that was
You
games
can't do
as
any of these
service.
things anymore, actually.
Right, and it was something that I loved and was near and dear to my heart and to our entire apartment at the time because we had like 15 Dreamcasts hooked up to do this. But it was games as a service. I bought it for the $60, and that's what we did.
Do you remember Animal Crossing whenever that came out and we were playing the shit out of Animal Crossing? God, that was so much fun. And I was thinking back then, it was like, wait, these have modems in them. Why can't they actually do real day and night cycles? Why can't they do real weather patterns? Why can't these things actually exist? And I think they do now. I think they finally like, yeah, we've got the internet now. We can do that.
Okay, so we've been thinking very critically about games as a service. We try to give you the pros and try to give you the cons so that everybody has we're not the kind of podcast that wants to tell you how to think. We are not those people. What we want to do is
I am that kind of
we
people.
want to provide you the information so you can go into a discussion about games as a service, educated and ready to actually have an honest discourse about it. So to kind of wrap this whole thing up, if we are thinking critically about this, is it safe to say that games as a service is a model that will continue to exist going forward? And if so, what can the industry do to improve the perception of it?
Unless public backlash comes out to such a degree that the gaming industry actually collapses, yeah, this shit's it's sticking around. But I think that one of the things that we have to do, I really don't want to get the government involved in this, but we do have to start talking to our senators, talking to our congresspeople, the people that are in charge of our local government and city, state, national government, and starting to get some kind of control over some of the practices involved here.
Right.
Because loot boxes are gambling. Children should not have access to those things. That's just a hard fucking
That's a
rule.
predatory
That is
practice.
a predatory practice. Do not allow children to have access to loot boxes. It's fucking gambling. You should. Need to just culturally go after these companies and say you need to get rid of the fear of missing out shit. It is psychologically damaging to people and as just players, as people, as humans. It's fucking bad. Like, it hurts your fucking brain. We need to change as a society to keep moving forward with the games as a service. We've talked about the good stuff, but we have to find a way to get rid of the bad or change the bad to only, to not affect children. To not, like, you can still have your loot boxes. The game has to be 18 and up.
I gotta say, I'm very impressed. For somebody who doesn't like children, you really are backing like
Because children are fucking stupid. Okay, they do not know anything. They can't
right.
even wipe their asses.
Let's not get into that discussion. But you bring up some excellent points when it comes to what. It was a two-part question, right? Is games as a service going to exist going forward? I think we can agree absolutely it's going to be a thing. So what can the industry do to improve the perception of it? Again, trying to get rid of those predatory practices.
Yeah, no, I was mentioning the things that we can do to get rid of, to help alleviate that.
Yeah.
The industry has to take a hard look at itself. And again, I don't think this is going to come back. Unless the government gets involved or we get action groups against them, the industry isn't going to fix itself.
Right, because it's just getting money.
Yeah, no, it's just printing money. We are printing money for them.
Right.
We're just handing them our credit cards and saying, go to fucking town.
Right.
And that's where the problem is at. We can't make them stop. They are not going to stop themselves. We have to force them to stop. We have to force change. And it sucks that we have to force change. You think maybe corporations would be, intelligent enough to realize that they're hurting somebody, but that's not how corporations work at all.
Right.
Not a
This
political podcast.
I played enough Shadowrun to know where this is going.
Exactly. No, I think we need to get people more involved in this conversation, and that right now the outrage that a lot of people have is very valid and very warranted, and that while we have been pretty calm about the subject,
Oh yeah,
and trying to show both
we
sides,
We really have been like, I've been trying to show both sides. Just know this is not where we're siding on this.
Dude, whenever the Gearbox announcements came out and we were reading the Twitter stuff, we sat on the couch for 3 hours just screaming about how awful that
it's microtransactions.
this
It's fucking microtransactions.
Just over and over again, just yelling at Twitter. Why don't you understand this?
Right.
And
But we also believe, as a part of our podcast and the way that we kind of live our IRL, is that having an actual discourse, having a discussion is the way that you make progress, the way you move forward.
Yeah.
So when we talk about things like games as a service, but it kind of behooves us to sit down, evaluate it from both sides, and say, all right, what are the positives? What are the negatives? And obviously the negatives outweigh the positives. And for the industry to improve its perception of games as a service, it comes down to that key phrase that I was talking about, and that's your best business practice. Right?
And that's something that
We need a standard.
yeah, we need
for
to.
that.
The thing is, every company's gonna have what they think their own standard is. That they're gonna have what they believe their own best practice is.
Right.
And that's not necessarily going to be industry wide.
Oh yeah, it's for people that make way more money than we do to talk about.
And yeah, no, we are the ones that have to start talking about it, though, because once we start talking about it, we get other people to start talking about it. Then we can force the change and go, your best practices are not the best practice.
Right.
You need to find a way to still make money, but quit fucking us in the butt.
Right. Unless that's
Unless that's what your game model is.
Right.
I don't know.
I mean, Concho the game. There you go. That's how it works. And so, to kind of summarize this whole thing, obviously we are not on the side of games as a service, but there are positives to all of the negative stuff that we've been talking about. When we talk about things like Warframe, it can genuinely work and make really cool titles and DLCs and all this stuff out of it.
Yeah, but for every one that we get like that,
We have about 100.
we've got EA.
If not, we have EA. There you. For every one good one, there's EA, which is basically a
or
million.
Activision.
I hate
or...
I hate you 3000 EA. That's how I feel about that one. All right, so I know this was a lot to digest. Games as a service is a very complicated topic. If you want to talk about it or just have any cool opinions about it, you can always hit us up. Tony, where can they find us? Where can they talk to us?
Twitter's at the Surly Nerd. Tweet us. James handles most of that. I just read it in passing whenever later on I'm on the John. We got info at thesurlynerd.com is our email address. If you want to send us some emails. Surlynerd.com is our website. Donate button on there. You can read some articles about some games we play and some other shit, I guess. Yeah. We've got facebook.com/surlynerd. We've got a Patreon page, patreon.com/thesurlynerd, which I haven't checked in like a week. So
I need to update it.
yeah,
That's
I
my
need
fault.
to. We've been I finally set
busy.
that up and I fucking fucked off hardcore on it.
I've been busy.
We've both been spending the weekend cleaning. We cleaned a lot this weekend. We didn't bring that up in the other part of the show. I did so much cleaning this
It
weekend.
was like Marie Kondo, the whole apartment.
Not quite yet, but I'm about to get there.
Well,
I'm doing
you can't do that, Tony, because you would hug yourself and be like, "Does this bring me joy?" and throw yourself in the trash.
I am a trash person.
All right, so yeah, there's tons of places you can hit us up. Of course, info@thesurlynerd.com. Email us your thoughts or just hit me up. I'm James on Twitter @thesurlynerd. Please, I want your opinions. We had such great feedback during last week.
Facebook's been great this week. Everybody's been liking shit and sharing things. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
I love all the people out there. Okay, I tolerate you mildly.
All right, that's everything we have for the show this week. This is episode 308 in the books. Again, thank you to all of our listeners. Until next week, for Tony, this is James.
For James, this is Tony.
Until next week, adventurers, good night.
And good game. Stop. Cool. Press save.
Thank you guys for chiming in so much. It's been awesome.
Kane, read the message I sent you.
I have to go to the bathroom.
All right, you go to the bathroom. I'm going to sign us out because I think we're done for the night. I need to go throw grenades at things. Bye, guys. It's been a time. I'll see you all next week, 7:30 Central. Come on down. Come on down to Surly Nerd Town. That's where we pound. I don't know. I'm stopping now. Good.